Hi everyone, it is Nikki from Doctors for Accidents. We are here with Alonso.
Alonso here from Gary Dordick, and as you all know, this is your host, JP. And today we're going to be interviewing one of my favorite paralegals, a friend, and also a person who I really respect and who's given me the opportunity to take you guys behind the scenes and to view this interview. So, Alonso from Gary Dordick's office, please introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, my name is Alonso from the Dordick Law Corporation. Been working with Gary Dordick now going on 29 years. Started out of high school and now here I am working with trial attorney, probably I would say the top trial attorney, Gary Dordick.
So this is where everybody needs to write Gary a message saying it's been 29 years, Alonso has been with him, hint hint, throw him an awesome party because literally it's almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years this.
Well, there is some dispute as to how long. It's actually been 30 with Gary himself, 29 with the Dordick Law Firm. So I should get two parties.
Two parties. Two parties, definitely.
You hear that?
You hear that, Gary?
Make sure you guys email Gary's office and ask for two.
Two parties.
That's right.
Exactly.
All right.
So we kind of lined up some questions that we had for Alonso. General public questions, what everybody's kind of always curious about. So one of the questions would be tell me about yourself. I know you're a family man. How many children do you have? Where do you live? What do you like to do?
Oh, here we go. Everybody's going to know now. I have 3 kids. I'm married to my best friend, my wife. I actually met her in the industry. About 25 years ago, we dated off and on, I would say 9 years as friends. Then we got married, 3 kids. I have a high school kid, 16 years old, another one that's going to be 12 at the end of the month, and my little princess who's 9. Living in Pasadena, I guess, living as they call it, the dream.
That's awesome. Now, my only question is, how do you manage to be a family man and also working for one of the top lawyers in Los Angeles? How is this even possible?
That is extremely hard. I guess prior to having kids, I worked very, very hard. I was able to do it.
Yeah.
As you get your family going, you have to slowly start to taper off your time. And Gary allowed that. He's a family man himself, so he understood you have to spend time with your kids because before you know it, a blink of an eye, they're adults.
Yeah.
And so he's always given me that opportunity to go ahead, spend time with your family. He's let me borrow his house out in Palm Desert. So I make it a point to get to as many functions as possible for my kids. My kids play basketball, they play sports.
That's good.
School performances, Gary, I gotta go. He's like, yeah, no problem. So working for somebody that can give you that opportunity to enjoy your family you can't beat that.
Yeah, that's definitely someone that you would want to work for that gives you that opportunity.
Definitely.
So what made you become a paralegal? What did you just wake up one day okay, I want to become a paralegal or
Well, I think it was either paint the house like my dad wanted to or get a job. And at the time, my sister was his secretary.
Okay.
And so she actually brought me into the industry, and I blame my sister for all of this. And I guess from then on, it just took off. I started as a file clerk, where Gary was at. About a year later, he decides he wants to go on his own. So he came up to me and he said, well, I'm going on my own. I can't afford your sister. You're cheap labor. How about we go along? I'm thinking, cheap labor, huh? Okay. And I did. I started with him and just learning as much as humanly possible. I found it very interesting.
Yeah.
Because...
So in a sense, you created value for him. I mean, you somehow gave him... I mean, he must have seen something that he didn't see in any other paralegal that you guys must have connected, which means you probably gave him some type of value, some type of,
I guess so, because I like working hard. I saw my parents work very hard.
There you go.
And they instilled work hard. My mom always said, and my dad always said, you take a job and you take it with pride and you do the best.
Yep.
And so my sister did the same thing, learn. And so I said, okay. I guess he did see that, and hopefully after 29 years I haven't disappointed him in terms of my work ethic. You know, I still work, I still go home. Like you said, between the kids, family life, and work, kind of all intertwines. My kids, and they see my phone and they're like, "You're still working, Dad." And sometimes you may have to edit this. Sometimes I actually mute the phone, don't take the call, and enjoy my kids. But I don't.
We'll cut that out.
But I don't regret doing that, because sometimes you do have to actually step away from that.
Yeah.
You know, but I still have the determination. I still have the drive to learn more and more in this industry. And I think Gary looks at it like, no matter what, you're still working. I put in as much effort as possible. You know, working weekends if I have to. But, you know, I took it the same way as him initially. You know, he wanted to be the best of the best.
Yeah.
I've seen him now. I've seen him from start going all the way to the top. And
Amazing.
I think I motivate myself that way too. If he's at the top, I got to put myself next to him at the top.
Correct.
I want to be the best. But obviously, you know, you work at it doesn't mean you will be, but inside you say, I
Well,
feel like I'm pretty good at what I do if I've lasted this long in the industry, right?
anyone that knows Gary, of course, knows you. Like, you two are, what would you call it,
We're
Batman
going
and
together.
Robin. We have Batman
I
and
know.
Robin here,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, exactly.
It's nice to hear. I mean, when they bring up Gary's name, my name comes up, and it feels good, because it's like, I don't have a college education. Right out of high school, got into this, and sometimes I tell my wife, wow, my name was mentioned in the same sentence as Gary Dordick. I feel like those young lawyers that see Gary like, oh my God, Gary Dordick, star, but you hear your name and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
People actually know
That's a
who I am.
that's
I
a
mean,
big accomplishment. It's very big.
Thank you. I mean, I feel very honored to be in that same, I guess, category with Gary in terms of names being mentioned.
Right.
So now, is he spoiling you? Are you going to be going down to Cabo to do this trial college?
Plan right now is, I hope so. I mean, obviously with COVID, I still have to think about my family. You know, if I can get the vaccine, or, you know, yes, I'm more than willing to, but right now I think it's more to be safe. I know a lot of people are looking forward to Cabo. Cabo's going to be fun, but at the same time, I think thinking about family first. And, you know, Gary's always said you can bring a family. That's one thing with Gary. Anywhere we've gone, whether it be Vegas, anything like that, he's always bring the family, bring the family. He loves my kids, you know. And
That's good.
I've been fortunate enough now to be working with 3 of his kids when I saw them when they were small. But I'm hoping to be at Cabo.
So do they call him Uncle Gary?
They call him boss.
Oh, okay. No, Uncle Gary. That's a boss. Okay.
They call him their boss.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so how's our boss? And I'm like, boss. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So another question would be, since you were the top of the top paralegal,
You are.
do you have any? You should be teaching classes on this.
Absolutely.
For someone who's starting in the industry, I don't see why you shouldn't come up with something, a program, or you know,
Some sort,
instructing. So everybody who wants to be at the top to where you are now is given the opportunity or some kind of lesson to do that.
I mean, I've done some webinars. I've done some webinars for paralegals with some of these groups. Just teaching what I've learned, because a lot of people call Gary, they'll call me. You know, some of the lawyers here, we do exchange in terms of a case, going through it, exchange information, ideas and everything. And it's nice when lawyers can look at a paralegal and not say, well, you're not a lawyer, why should I take your advice? It's nice when they can actually go to their paralegals and say, hey, what do you think about this? You know, paralegals shouldn't be afraid to speak up to their lawyers if they see something. You know, if they look at a case and like, hey, what about this? Lawyers go, that's very interesting, rather than saying, you're not a lawyer, stop doing that. You know, I think a lot of lawyers don't use their paralegals or their support staff the way they should. I don't think they give them that opportunity to be free, right? You can't box a paralegal in. They have a mind. A lot of them think outside the box. I love thinking outside the box. You know, I love going toe to toe with Gary. Say, no, that's not it. Well, how about this? No, that's not it. How about this? Okay, interesting. I think he likes challenges, and I do too. And I think we have to allow the paralegals to challenge the lawyers. Just because you don't have the degree doesn't mean you don't have the mind to challenge.
Exactly.
You know, and so I try and tell every paralegal, every legal staff, open your mind. Don't be afraid to try it. Gary always told me, yeah, you'll make a mistake. Everything is fixable with the exception of blowing a statute. They said, don't ever blow a statute. I can't fix that.
Yeah.
But anything else you can fix. And so with that, I'm able to be free because I know, okay, I don't want to make the mistake, but I know it can be fixed.
Yes.
And so you can work outside with that, outside the box, and think, and just use your imagination a lot to make a case work.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what are your main duties that you do every day? Like the main things that you do for Gary or for a law firm in general? What I guess what are those
I mean,
things?
slowly during the years, my duties have somewhat diminished a bit because we've gotten more staff, and
Yeah.
it's very helpful. I mean, you can't do everything all the time. You have to trust your staff and everything. Right now, I pretty much supervise a lot of the cases in terms with the lawyers. We
Okay.
sit there, experts, doctors. They like to throw ideas back and forth. I do intakes, a lot of client communication, a lot of referral lawyer communications. I go out and about meeting with lawyers, meeting with doctors. So I've somewhat slowly had my duties kind of like, I can't do this so
Right.
many. You have to somewhat
Yes.
start to diminish, but I still like to get involved. Although I shouldn't, I still stick my nose in wherever it is
Yes.
because you already know what's expected. I do from Gary. I know which way it should go and how the case should be progressing and who should they go to and all of that. And so you try and teach the staff. That way they get on the same ballpark and they keep going.
Got
I
it.
mean, I look at law firms, you got the A, B, and C's. We're the A team. I mean, I don't think anybody can ever deny we're not the A team.
Yeah.
Then you got the B teams, the ones that'll do the litigation and get to a certain point, but they don't do trials because they look at it like that's not something I want to do. That's why we got the big boys. Then you got the C team, which is they do pre-lit. They won't get into the litigation. And so we're the A team. We have to train our staff. You have to be an A level employee because you're working for the big boys.
Absolutely.
And so you teach them along the way, certain things you've learned, filing documents, looking for experts, looking for doctors, opening your eyes to how should this case move, which way should it go.
So are you a mentor to a lot of case managers or a lot of paralegals in the industry? Is that like fair to ask?
It's kind of like the young
It sounds
attorneys,
like
they see
it.
Gary and they're like, oh.
Right.
And
But then like Alonso's like, oh my
the
God.
case managers, oh, Alonso.
I do have some that say, seeing you and listening to you, I appreciate everything you do. I mean, I'm part of a lot of these groups where there's inputting of, do you have a doctor here? Do you have an expert here? Do you have a form like this? And a lot of them will send me emails along the way saying, thank you. You really helped and we appreciate what you do for the industry. That alone is like, wow, I actually helped somebody. A lot of them have said, you're like somebody I look up to. And I'm like, oh, wow. It might not be just because I'm tall. And, I think to myself, maybe, but a lot of them do come up to me and say, you've been an inspiration, seeing what you do out there, seeing that you work for Gary, seeing where he's at. Everybody says, well, Gary is where he's at because of you. I'm like, no, Gary's where he's at because of Gary, who he is.
Yeah.
Am I somebody underneath that's put myself to hold him up there? Yes, I see it as that. I see it, Gary is who he is. He's got magic in him that nobody will duplicate. But I always look at it like underneath, it's that staff. That's what we're called a support staff. We have to support our lawyers up there.
Correct.
And so I see it as a lot of people say, well, what you do is an inspiration because you put yourself to support that man. And to support a man like that, you have to be very good. So people are always like, what do you do? How do you do this? How can you help? And I've gone to offices, I've sat with paralegals, I've gone through files, so you should do this, you should look at that. I'm not saying my methods are perfect, but maybe I've gone through it. I still learn from other paralegals in the industry, from all the other top law firms. I learn from them. I'll call them. How do you do this? Have you ever done? Oh yeah, let me show you. So it's nice to have those things where you can bounce ideas off everybody, but it's nice to also be people telling you you're an inspiration. It's like, thanks.
So if you had one thing to say to any other law firms about their paralegals and keeping them around and keeping them happy, because you've been with Gary now 29, 30 years, you know, 2 parties. To keep your staff around for that long, like what advice would you give to them to keep them in house and not have them leave?
That's a
like
very good
giving
question, yes.
them opportunities, or what makes someone happy to stay for that long?
Make them a part of the cases. Don't shut them out. We're not robots, right? We're not there just to do the paper. Involve them in the case. Make them feel, you know, if the case settles, thank them. Because without them, you wouldn't have gotten that settlement. Without the work they put behind, you wouldn't have had that result. You know, we have to take care of the clients. We have to listen to clients. It's you know, the lawyers get the glory. They get trial lawyer of the years. They get all of this stuff. But the staff is what you have to thank. You know, doesn't have to be at times publicly. You can tell your staff thank you. A simple thank you goes a very, very long way. You know, when they do a good job, great job. You know, pat on the back. Take them to lunch once in a while. If you keep the staff happy, they will continuously perform for you.
Absolutely.
You know, Gary has a thing to give bonuses, mid bonuses and a year bonuses. If he doesn't give a bonus, don't be upset over it. Right. Maybe, you know, at times maybe business didn't do well, or maybe there was that big error you made and you didn't deserve it. Mm-hmm. But always thank your employees. Always say thank you. You know, if a settlement comes along, tell your staff, hey, thank you guys. Buy them lunch. You know, we thank you for the great job. That'll always keep an employee around for a long time. You know, it's when you don't treat them well. You know, always think of all the good stuff they did. We'll all make a mistake. Don't lean on that one mistake, because that's when they say, you know, I gave you X amount of years and I made one mistake, and now the world's ending because I made that mistake, and now you're treating them bad. No.
So we need to start an award of somehow for all the paralegals. Like every year, no more attorneys awards. Let's do some paralegal awards.
You know what, that's something they should do.
Yeah.
Yes. I think have staff vote, you know, for staff paralegals.
Law firms too. Voted for the best paralegals that year. Sure.
You know, I mean, support staff. It doesn't even have to be paralegals, because you still have support staff. You still have secretaries. You still have legal assistants, case managers, everything.
A little bit of everything, right?
You know, I mean, there should be some kind of award. People will work 10 times harder because they want to be, at least for that year, considered I am on the top of the top. You know, like lawyers. I mean, you know, lawyers get trial lawyer of the year and they're walking around pounding their chest like, I am trial lawyer of the year. It's like, well, what about a paralegal? What about a legal staff? I'm the legal staff of the year.
You hear this, guys? We're going to start putting in our future magazine top paralegals of the year.
That's right.
Down the line. Let's work on this. We're going to do this.
That would be great. I mean, in your magazine, you know, vote for and list the names, go to the different firms. Yes. I mean, you guys are well known out in the industry. You know, you guys have your doctors who are all great, top notch. And so imagine your magazine or on your website, you know, voting for the top legal support out there, and then doing interviews like this for them. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's marketing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you do it, I want some credit on that.
Absolutely. We can talk.
Alonso's going to start this with us. So I want to kind of debunk a general question. This is questioned by everybody, general public that doesn't really know about law. They're just like, oh, okay, I got in a car accident. How much is my case worth?
Oh, good question.
So can you just kind of explain how just this question is just like the hardest thing to explain?
Yeah, people might disagree with whatever I have to say, but not one single lawyer out there can tell you what your case is worth when you first call. No way. Mm-hmm. We don't know your injuries. We don't know what the doctors are saying. We don't know anything. I mean, clients have always posed that question, what's my case worth? I'm like, I couldn't tell you. You can't tell me? Okay, what number do you want to hear? Do you want to hear 10 million, 20 million? What's going to make you happy? And they're like, well, no, that's not what I want to hear. Well, I can't tell you. It's too hard to tell you because there's too many pieces that have to take place before anything, right? I mean, when there's wrongful deaths, that's probably the hardest. Mm-hmm. Most people don't want to hear what you tell them at the end of the day. Well, we think we can get this much for you. Yeah. That's all my life is worth. No, you got to look at it in terms of the legal system. Mm-hmm. If you take it for emotional purposes, there's no limit, right? But nobody can tell you. Any lawyer that tells you your case is worth $5 million without reviewing anything, without knowing future, I wouldn't go with that lawyer.
No, you see that, guys?
I would not go with that lawyer.
Yep,
I'm
take
sorry.
notes.
Right?
Google doesn't answer everything.
No, it doesn't. You can Google it all you want, and you could say, okay, I got a broken leg, what's it worth? There's no amount,
It's
because
worth a cast.
yeah, it could be casted. You could have 4 or 5 surgeries along the way.
Correct.
You know, nobody can really tell you. Any lawyer that sits there and says your case is worth about $2 million, that's a total lie, and I wouldn't go with them.
Okay.
That's the last lawyer. I've never had Gary Doherty tell anybody what their case is worth until he's had the experts, he's got the doctors, and he's put all of that together, and then he can come up with a figure.
Months and months of
Oh,
information.
yeah. I mean, you're
Absolutely.
going deep in there.
Right.
You know, but right off the bat, on the first phone call, and they say, what's my case worth? And the lawyer says, well, based on what you're telling me, it's worth, $2 million. You know what? Hang up that phone and call somebody else that's going to be honest with you. That's not the lawyer that's going to get it, because when he doesn't get it, you're going to be fighting with him. You're going to be yelling at him.
Correct.
So,
And if I'm not mistaken, what I've noticed, a lot of the case managers and paralegals, and even some of the attorneys who handle the pre-litigation part, there's facts, there's MRIs, there's the doctor's reports, like all these things play into consideration as to how your case is worth, how much the value of the case is worth. So it's hard to just say like it's worth $2 million without reviewing all the facts, because that's what's going to be used in court.
correct. I mean, the facts are what they are, but the injuries have to transpire along the way.
Exactly.
That's where good doctors, good facilities, you use the proper treatment all along the way. And like I told you guys have some great doctors.
Thank you.
If you call them, they're going to get you the doctor, they're going to get you the right doctor. From then on, you just have to work it up, and the doctors are going to tell you, this is what's wrong, right? Either your client's going to need surgery, or just PT, or pain management, whatever it may be. From then on, you can start working to, okay, now, what do we think the case is worth in terms of what the future is going to hold for them,
Correct.
right? But you can't tell somebody right off that first phone call. They say,
Right.
oh, one lawyer told me my case is worth millions, and you know what? You go back to them, go talk to them, and tell them to get you the millions.
Yeah.
And let me know how it goes.
Call me when you're having
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, when he's not getting it for you, or when he's
true.
telling you your case is really only worth like 50,000, then call me.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, nobody
so
can
we're
tell you.
debunking that Google question. Don't Google that, guys.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just- it's-
definitely not.
That's not the way it works.
No.
So, super excited to be sitting here with Alonso, JP. These two have known each other for how many years now?
Wow, a long time.
A long
You were
time.
still wearing
That's
diapers?
No, that wasn't that young. I don't think I was that young,
I
but
didn't see that one,
it's got to be a good 11 or 12 years, I think. From when I started, at least, just coming around, because of family and everything, and then eventually I got into the industry, and somehow I met Alonso in in a more personal level, maybe about 3 or 4 years, 5 years ago, something like
I
that.
remember that.
Yeah. So, yeah,
And
that's how I met him.
Yeah, and now look, I mean, I look at you and I'm like, wow, I remember when he first came with the idea, and I'm thinking, sounds like a pretty good idea. How can we make this work? And he reached out to us and got Gary on board, and you guys did your launch party, and from then on, I think you guys have taken off.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
so
guys,
much.
I watched you guys on Instagram. I'm like, wow, I remember when he was coming with that idea. Now look at him. But it's always nice to see people in the industry when they start off and they come to you and they're asking you for advice, and they're asking you, how can we get this going? And Gary's like, I'll help you. What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
And from then on, they take it and they go with it. That's exactly the way I see what Gary did with me. He opened the door, and once you open the door, you gotta basically tear the door down and keep going.
Yes.
And not, look back saying thank you, but keep going up.
Yeah.
And I think, I guess both of us can say Gary gave us that opportunity.
100%.
We took it our way, you took it yours, and now look at us.
Definitely.
You
Yes.
know, I think,
Gotta get that
Thank
air
you.
high five going
air
on
high
there.
five
Yeah.
right here. Fist pumps. But yeah, I mean, from a single man to beautiful wife.
Thank
and,
you.
now your little one, and
Yes.
oh man, I'm telling you, I feel like I'm getting old. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great journey so far, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's going to continue for longer periods of time, because Gary, I still got kids that have to go to college.
Keep on going. Keep on
Yeah,
going.
exactly.
Absolutely. So the last thing for somebody starting out in the industry, and for let's say an attorney who's taking the bar exam and he's starting out, what is your suggestion for them? How do they create a business, or how do they bring value to an attorney by working long hours? Like, how can you give me kind of a step-by-step on how they could somehow
An attorney newbie, I guess.
give right?
Do they work under someone? Do they just take the leap, start their own law firm? What do you think they should do?
I don't think you should take the leap to open your own law firm.
Okay.
You don't have the experience just yet. Now, granted, some of them might have already worked in the law field for several years and then decided I'm going to be a lawyer.
Yes.
Those at times will survive because they already have the knowledge of how an office works. But if one day you woke up and said, you know, I want to be a lawyer, you go to school for 4 years, you have no clue once you graduate what you're doing, right?
That's with anyone.
Yeah. But when you've already had the experience, you kind of get an idea. For lawyers that are coming out, don't expect somebody to hire you right off the bat. Don't expect the big boys to say, come on in, because they're running a successful firm in terms of high profile cases. You can't put a newbie into a high profile case because too much at risk.
Correct.
Get yourself involved with some of the smaller firms that are going to give you the opportunity to handle some of the smaller cases, to get your feet wet. Get some experience, a couple of years. I mean, you might be like, I don't want to do this a couple of years. Do it a couple of years. Get as much information as you can. Attend some of these seminars. Listen to these guys talk about the battles they've gone through. Absorb all of that and then use it. Then you can go out on your own. When you go out on your own, make sure you have a good support staff, because they're going to have to carry the load with you, right?
Yep.
And some people can't afford that. That's one of the main issues,
Yeah.
right? So when you go out, you got to be prepared to be able to pay somebody that in the industry that can help you out along the way. But graduating from law school and trying to open your own law firm, don't.
You hear that, guys?
Yeah.
Even if you have the funds to do it, don't do it.
No, I think even a lot of the big boys will tell you they didn't jump out right away. They latched onto somebody first, saw what their skills levels were, and then took the plunge.
That's what I've noticed, that trend too, because a lot of the people from about 5 years ago who were working for big law firms ended up eventually owning their own law firm after a certain amount of years of experience.
But you know, they
Makes sense.
They were given that opportunity to maybe join a good law firm with a good lawyer that took them under the wing and said, I'm going to show you. And they learned, and they branched out, and some have been very successful. Some have gone to trial, hit big verdicts and everything. You're like, wow, that's really good. And some of them end up, they don't, and they end up on the defense side, and you're seeing going, which are the plaintiffs? I said, just couldn't. I just need a job.
Oh, man.
So it's like, oh, that was a tough one.
Is that how it works?
You know, so it's, you know, when you don't survive in your own firm, you take what you can. Sometimes some of them start on the defense. They want to learn that side first.
I've
Jump
heard that,
into the
actually.
plaintiffs.
I actually know a couple people that have done that.
Then they open their own law firm after that.
Yeah.
You know, do defense, learn the ropes there, get yourself, and a lot of them use it to promote themselves. Well, I know both sides. I worked on the defense and I worked on the plaintiff side, so I know. I'm like, but that doesn't mean you know. Right? I mean, for a lot of these big firms, big lawyers, you know, Gary didn't work on the defense, and look at him, you know, but some of them did work on the defense and are big top named lawyers out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
That's awesome.
That one, that part I didn't know.
We're learning things every
You learn
day.
something new every single day.
A lot of them will
It's
start
amazing.
on the defense just to get their feet wet there.
Is there any books or any TV shows, I don't know, something that kind of inspires you to be a better paralegal or anything like that?
What's that show that we love that we've been watching?
Goliath.
Goliath.
I mean, you haven't seen it on Amazon.
You have to watch
Watch
it.
my cousin Vinny.
Yeah, my cousin Vinny's great too.
My cousin Vinny. You know, I don't know if there's really any books out there to inspire you. I think what inspires me is the cases, going through it, and you're bouncing theories and questions among each other. you start getting motivated. When you're doing the same repetitive, neck, back, and nothing in between, you're kind of like,
Right.
it's kind of boring. It's kind of repetitive. It's the same thing. I think you have to take on different types of cases to keep yourself going. And the only way you're going to learn, I mean, books can't teach you. I'm sorry. You can read as many books as you want until you get yourself in those scenarios, because every scenario is different.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll start learning more and more. You have to actually be.
It's experience.
Yeah, that's all.
100%.
A book is going to tell you what the law is,
right?
But will it apply to that case? Will it not apply to that case?
Everything's different, detailed differently.
Yeah, and injuries differently.
Correct.
They're different as well. You might not be using an ortho. You might be using a pain management. You might not be using a pain management. You might be using a chiro.
Right.
Correct.
Every injury is different, so it's mostly experience. I don't think it's good to listen to these webinars and listen to what people say, but you have to be involved.
Absolutely.
In the whole thing, or else you're not ever gonna learn.
Yeah.
Just by reading a book.
For sure. Well, I wanted to thank once again Alonso.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You guys.
Really.
We're going to get those awards started.
That's right.
They're going to be coming up soon.
Yes.
Well, we're going to work something out there.
On
Let's get some awards
we'll
going for all these hard workers here. So.
Definitely, guys. All right, guys. So stay tuned. We'll be around. This is, again, Alonso from Gary Dordick's office, top paralegal right here.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
For sure, absolutely. And that's it, guys. Thanks.
All right. Make sure you use these guys. They got some top doctors. I use them. Good one.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.